Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for a very comprehensive introduction to our discussion on welfare, social protection, and public goods. My name is Nana Oye Bampoe Addo, former Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection for the Republic of Ghana. And we have...
I succeeded her, but from a different party, the government in power. My name is Otiko Afisa Jaba, and I just served for 1.5 years, and then I retired from politics.
Yeah, she has not retired from politics. She was the national women organizer for her political party, the MPP, and she was very instrumental in getting her party to win the elections in 2016. Please clap for her. Thank you very much. We are going to focus on health, education, access to social services, and the basic needs for women and young girls. When you look at the document that was drafted, you'd realize that we are focusing on 3 fundamental components in this respect: health, sexual and reproductive health. We are aware of our challenges for especially adolescent girls, transactional sex, poverty, menstrual hygiene issues. We have issues with education, employment, unpaid work, especially that was exacerbated during the COVID pandemic, and access to income. And then the basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing. And I'll also add personal security. During our last session, a lady raised that issue about privacy of the home. And we remember what happened to the Nigerian gospel singer a few months ago in April when she was murdered by her husband. So these are issues that the women of the South face. Our well-being. What is the state of our well-being? And because we have, in our country, we have less than 1% of the national budget going to social services. And so the provision of social services, even for women, is very inadequate and sometimes even non-existent. And what happens is that it increases vulnerability of women and girls and intergenerational poverty. Because women are the bottom, extremely poor. They are the food crop farmers. They are the petty trainers. They sell gari and peanuts and what have you. They are extremely poor. And what are the issues? Number one, what is the state of our social welfare systems in the South? What is the state of sexual and reproductive health? We have the Maputo protocols in Africa, but to what extent are we measuring? We have the SDGs also. And then what about equal access to education? Do we have gender parity? How are we measuring all that? So these are issues that we would like to throw up and discuss. How do we ensure equitable access to public goods by women and young girls in the South, particularly Latin America and in Africa? To what extent also do we use the opportunity of social protection, which is an emerging intervention, to reduce poverty amongst women and young girls? We will open the floor up. We are the last session, so we have the mics, 3 mics, and would like to have a discussion on how we address these challenges and recommendations on the way forward. Honorable Otiko Jaba will conclude our discussions. Do you have something to add?
I just want to say that each one of us here is the cream of African leadership, or from the different parts of the world that we have come here from. And I want each one to turn to the next person and give that person a hug. And tell that woman that I am happy to see you here.
I'm happy to see you.
Give the next person a hug and say that you are happy. And then,
I'm happy to see you.
yes. And then, I want all of us to turn to Mama Teresa and blow her kisses. To Mama Teresa, we're blowing you kisses for bringing us all the way here and for all the effort that has gone into us coming here. We want to show you huge love and say mwah. So we all show her some love, a lot of love for you and mwah, 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 for everything that you have done for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Otiko Jaba. The floor is open for recommendations, for suggestions on how we can strengthen our legal systems, how we can strengthen our public institutions, and how we can help to increase budget resources for social services and for public group in the interest of women and young girls in the South. Thank you.
Je vous remercie. Moi, je vais parler de l'éducation. Vous savez, la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme de 1948, les différents pactes internationaux, tous ces instruments internationaux parlent d'une scolarité gratuite et obligatoire dans le primaire. Donc, c'est aux acteurs de la société civile d'inciter les pouvoirs publics surtout ceux, je suppose que pratiquement la majorité des pays de notre continent ont adhéré à ces instruments internationaux. Donc, c'est le rôle de la société civile d'inciter justement à ce que l'éducation primaire soit assurée, parce qu'on parle de la gratuité et de l'obligation. Je vous remercie.
Merci. Yeah, can you hear me? Dans la même veine, moi je voudrais qu'on aille beaucoup plus loin et qu'on aille au moins jusqu'à l'âge de 16 ans, que toute petite fille, jeune fille, est obligée d'aller à l'école au moins jusqu'à l'âge de 16 ans, et surtout dans les zones rurales. Et c'est ça le vrai problème. Merci.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias y me sumo a los agradecimientos para nuestra querida amiga, hermana, también otra de las grandes luchadoras como es María Teresa. En ese sentido, en relación a las políticas sociales, debemos de recomendarle que deben haber esos dos elementos. Quienes hemos sido funcionarias nos hemos dado cuenta que una política social sin el respaldo financiero y sin el respaldo de esa reforma fiscal que se requiere para lograr presupuestos nacionales sustentables, pienso que hay que recomendarlo. Porque nos hemos dado cuenta que se lanzan políticas y se quedan como enunciados, pero sin ese respaldo presupuestario. Entonces, de esa manera pienso yo que se debe recomendar a los estados, a los gobiernos, y por otro lado, también hay que recomendarle a la cooperación internacional. Y a la cooperación internacional decir, ayudamos a X o Y estado, sí, solo sí, tengan políticas sustentables, con financiamiento, con políticas fiscales, con participación inclusiva, con mujeres que también estén trabajando de acuerdo a las políticas y que también las políticas mismas sean también convocantes a la participación de las juventudes, me refiero a las mujeres. Y por otro lado, las políticas deben ser incluyentes. Y la inclusión va también en relación a lo que se ha dicho con anterioridad, que no me dieron la palabra, en relación a la seguridad de las mujeres. La seguridad de las mujeres indígenas que trabajamos mucho por la defensa del territorio y que somos criminalizadas y que somos realmente perseguidas y encarceladas y con sentencias de 80 años, como el caso de mujeres en Guatemala. Yo creo que no solo Guatemala, sino a lo largo de América Latina. Y somos más de 40 millones de mujeres indígenas en América Latina. Y por eso nos identificamos muchísimo con las mujeres africanas, porque somos los dos grandes continentes de exclusión, de pobreza, de racismo. Yo creo que en este sentido debemos dejar recomendaciones contundentes para los estados a fin de que tengan políticas de seguridad para las mujeres y que el 1325 sea realmente una realidad y que es vinculante porque es de derechos humanos, es vinculante y tienen que cumplirlo porque también la seguridad ciudadana está en las cartas magnas o en las constituciones. Por otro lado, sí tenemos que hacer y abanderar nosotras las mujeres las reformas de las constituciones y las reformas de la ley electoral y de partidos políticos.
Bueno, muy buenas tardes a todas. Agradecer a María Teresa una vez más y no nos vamos a cansar, aunque nos toque mañana seguir hablando, te vamos a seguir agradeciendo. En el tema de salud, poner en el centro la universalidad de acceso a la salud. Mientras hablemos de universalidad en acceso a la salud, las mujeres van a ser las más beneficiadas siempre. Y en este tema, en Bolivia hemos tenido una experiencia que comparto con ustedes. Yo fui ministra de Salud, presidente de la Cámara de Senadores y presidente de la Cámara de Diputados, y esto me permitió hacer leyes y luego ir al Ejecutivo e intentar aplicarlas. Así que en esa experiencia, en las visitas de salud en los hogares, son un momento muy importante que puede utilizarse para la prevención del embarazo adolescente y para el encuentro de personal de salud con mujeres adolescentes, hombres adolescentes, y se puede romper la barrera de acceso, es decir, no tienen que acercarse esos adolescentes y esas adolescentes al establecimiento de salud, sino que el médico o la médica llega a sus casas en un lugar donde se sienten en su territorio y se sienten seguros y seguras. Ese espacio puede ser una oportunidad inigualable para poder hablar de estos temas con mujeres, jóvenes e inclusive en muchos casos niñas, porque también se detecta que hay muchos niños, niñas, adolescentes que mientras sus padres y sus madres trabajan, ellos están en su vivienda. Entonces puede ser una oportunidad para trabajar entre el personal de salud y la población de esa edad. Gracias.
Bueno, yo quisiera hacer una propuesta porque en nuestra región, en Centroamérica, hay el día de hoy mujeres que son presas políticas por haber manifestado la intención de participar activamente en política, como en Nicaragua, o presas por haber ejercido la función pública, como en Guatemala, donde hay una mujer que se llama Virginia La Parra, que tiene más de 3 meses de estar detenida ilegalmente con casos espurios. Así como también hay mujeres, juezas, fiscales en el exilio, que han tenido que salir porque ejercieron la función pública. Entonces, Creo que en el comunicado que tengamos mañana debería haber un pronunciamiento para aquellas mujeres que están sufriendo violencia, detención y persecución por haber tomado un rol en desafiar el poder.
I believe we need to take the human rights approach to everything we are talking about. Fundamentally, it starts from the Constitution by holding governments to ensure that our constitutions reflect the realities and aspirations of the people and not be defined by the executive perpetuating itself. Secondly, the global governance needs to hold our people, our governments accountable on human capital development. Women have talents and ingenuity, and they represent resources through their multiple roles: reproductive, community, and productive. So we need to hold them accountable to ensure that the global community, in crossing the bridge that we are now building, they need to hold them by having these targets and benchmarks as indicators as to whether they're moving forward for human progress, social progress, or not. Otherwise, aid should be tied to human capital development, which is human rights, rule of law, and also the constitutionality of people, of the populations. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Moi, je suis Madame Nam Fadima Magasouba de la République de Guinée. Je vais parler d'une question qui n'a pas été dite ici. On lance les appels aux autorités, mais moi, je voudrais lancer ici un appel à nous femmes leaders qui nous trouvons dans cette salle. Il s'agit de la solidarité féminine. On en parle sur les lèvres, mais on agit peu. Et c'est le lieu de remercier notre présidente Maria Teresa d'avoir établi le pont entre les Africaines et les Européennes et les Latino-Américaines. Nous avons besoin de ces ponts-là dans nos pays, entre nous et les femmes rurales, entre nous et les femmes qui n'ont pas eu la chance d'aller à l'école et qui n'ont pas eu la chance d'être à des postes comme nous. Il faudrait qu'on les aide à les tirer vers le haut en s'inspirant de l'exemple de Maria Teresa. C'est extrêmement important. Sinon, je ne dis pas que nous n'allons pas réussir, mais ça sera très difficile. Encore une fois, il faudrait que on considère nos sœurs, tant qu'on va les regarder comme des femmes, peut-être nous on n'est plus bénis qu'elles, ou nous avons la chance et elles ne sont pas chanceuses. Tant qu'on les regarde comme ça, nous ne réussirons pas. Je voulais attirer l'attention de toutes les femmes leaders pour qu'on établisse le pont entre nous et celles qui n'ont pas eu la chance. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. This is the worst subject at the end of the day. You see, everybody's woken up again because how we treat people is the most important aspect of a nation's development. So everything we've discussed earlier, whether it's elections or democracy and the processes in national development, stem from this very discussion here about how we treat our people, particularly women and children. And there's so many gender ministers in this room because in most countries, the gender ministry, social welfare ministry has been feminist and feminized for the longest time. Now we've started talking about feminist foreign policies, and those are usually manned by men. Yet the social welfare ministry, which is the most important aspect of people and policy, to the most part has been treated in a reductive manner because it's gendered. And if we're here talking about protection of people, protection of rights, and all the aspirations embedded in the Declaration of Declaration of Human Rights, we must first think about the intrinsic issues and challenges with the lack of respect for women, with a lack of respect for those we're supposed to be protecting, with a lack of respect, I dare to say, of us as gender ministers, as women. And therefore, these issues and challenges have never been taken seriously. If they were, they would have been solved by now. Because the most important aspect of development for me is dynamic legislation. So activists have done a great job in bringing up the issues and challenges, and these get resolved by formalizing progressive laws that then protect people. But as we've heard so many times here today, these laws are not enforced. They're not implemented. The Maputo Protocol has been accepted.
So sorry, I hear the university has to close.
Okay.
So if you could just...
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Maputo Protocol, for example, so many African countries domesticated they ratified with reservations. So many aspects there have been kind of taken out. Okay, we don't take this anymore, we don't take that. And those that have been ratified still are not enforced. So where do we go from here in demanding that respect for people who are vulnerable and need to be protected, and women first? And where do we go in ensuring these enforcement of these laws that already exist on the book and are very good, but they're not implemented? Thank you.
Okay, because of time, it's difficult to take anymore. And all the things that you have said, we will put them in the reports that we already have and build on it. The main ones that I want to remind us about is that it is a privilege to be a woman. Nationhood starts with the first pregnancy. The whole world is created by woman. The power of the woman is so huge, but we underestimate our strength. And then the sons that we have given birth to now tell us that we don't know how to be leaders. When did you give up your position as a leader to your son? Who taught your son how to clean his nose? How does your husband find his car keys? How come he wears black and yellow socks when you are not around? The power of the woman must not be underestimated. Each one of us in this room has been given the unique position of influence to be a vice president, to be Madam Teresa, a former vice president, to be a minister for gender. Each one of you here has a social contract to ensure that the social policies and all the issues of discrimination and abuse and violence must change. Nobody is going to give us the opportunity. Even the men are fighting for the opportunities. We have to take the opportunities. We have to fight to change Africa. We must be the change agents, and each of us must be a social entrepreneur and ensure that in every policy in our countries, the girl child goes to school until she finishes school. And that we have scholarships in place for these young girls. And that even when they get pregnant, there should be a safety net to get them back to school. We must ensure that when women are campaigning, they are protected, and that nobody violates them. And that when somebody is raped, there are laws. The laws must be enforced, so that anybody who is raped must face the law. There is no discrimination with abuse. Once you abuse somebody, you must face the full arm of the law. We must ensure that budgets are gender-responsive budgets. You can't give the Ministry of Gender 1% and give Ministry of Education 60, 80% and expect that all the problems in the nation will be solved. All the problems, the social issues, are to be solved by the Ministry of Gender. But the budgets are so paltry. It's so difficult. Mental health issues, disability issues, children not eating, children on the street, you name it. And the beginning of nationhood is the woman. And if you are in charge of the Ministry of Gender, we must fight for bigger budgets to address the social issues. Women who are imprisoned, you all have the ability to demonstrate, to write letters, and ensure that they are released. We must take the fight to the leaders. Nothing happens unless you do it. And don't be afraid to be brave. It takes courage, and we have it. If you can get pregnant for 9 months and go and have this baby and go home and make food for your husband who faints at the sight of blood, you are brave. You are a warrior. Choboy! In my country, this is a war cry. I say, Choboy! Then you say, hey. No, you say, hey. Choboy! 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 Arise, African women, and change Africa the way you want to see it. Thank you.